Hey, let's talk for just a few minutes about a required form called the Working with a Real Estate Broker form. Now, it comes in duplicate, so if we're signing this in person, you're going to get the yellow copy. And if we're doing it digitally, of course, you'll receive an electronic file of the copy. Now, this is a form that's required by the Mississippi Real Estate Commission up in Jackson, which exists to protect you, the consumer, not me, the realtor. They believe so strongly in this information that's in this form that is required that I read this together with you, that you have a chance to review it and you get all your questions answered, that then you have the option of choosing whether you want to be a client or a customer of mine before we ever start talking about property or anything confidential about your personal circumstances. So this is always going to be the very first thing that we do together, even if you haven't decided for sure if you want me to represent you in the purchase or sale of a property. There are a couple of ways you can work with a realtor. You can be a client or you can be a customer. Signing this form does not bind you to me or any other realtor that is having you sign it. It says that at the very top. This is not a contract. This is just a disclosure. It is to educate you, to let you know what our roles are, what we can and can't talk about with the different parties in a real estate transaction. So I'm not going to go into this in detail. This is on my website. So feel free to visit my website and look at the link to the Working with a Real Estate Broker form so you can read it for yourself. If we have an appointment for a consultation, if I have not already sent you a link to this form or sent you this form, please text me and say, hey, send me that form, because I want to be protected, and I'll make sure you get a copy of it to review before we meet. But it's important that you sign it and that you understand that you have options of how you want to be treated and how you want to work with a realtor. You want to make sure that you're not talking about anything confidential about your personal circumstances or about your property with a realtor until you have signed this, because you want to make sure that they are going to protect your confidentiality if you choose to be a client. Now, a customer doesn't have that same protection. The realtor is supposed to be honest and fair, no matter if you're a client or a customer. There's all sorts of things I can't disclose about your personal situation if you're my client. Now, how you hire a realtor to work with you if you are buying property is there's a document called a buyer's agency agreement. And it just says, hey, if I were on the listing side, I would hire you and you would put your sign in my yard. And that would be a visible signal to everybody that I have one realtor representing me in the sale of my property. So we don't have anything visual that goes in a yard on the buyer side. What we do have is a buyer's agency agreement. And this disclosure is not that, but it does talk about that. And it talks about how you hire a realtor is by signing that. So it's important that you understand all the different ways in which we can work together. Now, a buyer's agency agreement is a little bit different. It is an additional document. Again, it's not this because this is not a contract, but the buyer's agency agreement is when you are ready to commit to me and I say, hey, yes, I think we're a fit. We're going to work together to find a property. Then we sign that. And that's when we talk about how does a realtor get paid? How does the brokerage get paid on a for sale by owner versus a property that's listed in the MLS? How long are we saying we're going to work together? And how do I get out of this contract if I decide, Paula's not doing her job and she's not, you're never going to say that, because I'm going to do my job and I'm going to be available and I'm going to educate you and I'm going to communicate with you. But there is a way to cancel that agreement so that you are free to move on to work with somebody else if you decide for whatever reason that you just prefer to work with someone else. So two really important things for us to discuss the very beginning of the meeting. Number one, working with the real estate broker form. I can't have any real conversation with you without having that signed and giving you a copy of it. And then also, if you're working with me to possibly be your buyer's agent, we're going to talk about a buyer's agency agreement to make sure we're all on the same page, that our roles are clear, and that you know that I'm doing my best to protect your confidentiality and find you the best house. And I don't ever want anybody to have any kind of financial surprise. And that buyer's agency agreement really outlines how Realty Executives gets paid when you purchase a house. So if you haven't watched that video, make that one your next one if you're in the market to buy property. And if you are preparing for an appointment with me, make sure you've seen a copy of this. And if you're working with somebody else, you still need to sign it and review it. So that's it. And we'll talk soon.